What's up guys? Today I will show you a horror thriller movie Oculus. As the movie opens, it is the climax of their childhood experiences. Kaylie peeking out from the door, watching as her father carrying a gun passes by, finding the front door locked. They spotted reflective-eyed spirit standing near the mirror. As her father returns, putting the gun to her head, we hear a shot, flashing forward to Tim now, with the opening being a reoccurring nightmare he's been suffering from. After the childhood incident, he was sent to a mental health facility where over the years, he's had his brain reprogrammed regarding the specifics of what unfolded as kids, essentially that there was no paranormal side whatsoever. Now on the verge of his 21st birthday, Tim is finally about to be released from the hospital, his treatment complete, hoping to finally move on from his childhood trauma. The film takes place in two different times, the present and 11 years earlier. The two plot lines are told in parallel through flashbacks. In 2002, software engineer Alan Russell moves into a new house with his wife Marie, 10-year-old son Tim, and 12-year-old daughter Kaylie. Alan purchases an antique mirror to decorate his office. Marie is haunted by visions of her own body decaying, while Alan is seduced by a mysterious and ghostly woman. In 2013, Tim is discharged from a psychiatric hospital. Kaylie has spent most of her young adulthood researching the history of the mirror. Using her position as an employee of an auction house, she obtains access to the mirror and has it transported to the family home, where she places it in a room filled with surveillance cameras and a kill switch, an anchor weighted to the ceiling. Kaylie intends to destroy the mirror, but first wants to document its powers, proving Tim's innocence. My name is Kaylie Russell, I'm 23 years old, I'm with my brother Timothy Alan Russell, he's 21 years old. It's 4:15 p.m. on October 13th, and we are at 2705 Hawthorne Way. I'll begin by detailing my precautions before I place and uncover the glass. There are 3 cameras, each on its own independent power circuit, so if any anomalies occur, there can be a lucid, objective record. I have private landlines for today's experiment, along with my cell phone, and I will now ask my brother for his phone, so that I can control all electronic devices. This alarm is set to go off every 45 minutes to remind me to change the tapes in the cameras. This alarm is set to go off hourly to remind us to eat. And we're fully stocked on water to prevent dehydration. Now, as for the house itself, each room is fitted with its own thermostat, from which data is collected by software designed to track and record temperature fluctuations in hospitals. Any temperature changes greater than 5 degrees in either direction will set off an alarm. A third precaution is also in place, but I'll get into that in a few more minutes. So the purpose of today's experiment is to prove that the object behind me, the laser glass, is home to an observable, predictable supernatural force. There's no scientific equivalent for the word haunted, so we'll just say this object is responsible for at least 45 deaths in the 4 centuries of its recorded existence. Can I just stop you for a second? Don't ever turn off a camera. Sorry. The origin of the laser glass is unknown, so I can't provide a complete history, but the trail starts in London in 1754. Philip Lasser, the 17th Earl of Leicester, acquired the mirror and hung it over his fireplace. So in 1755 Philip Lasser was found in their grand fireplace, burned beyond recognition, while his estate was dismantled and scattered throughout southern England. One of the family's stewards claimed to see Philip reflected in the mirror. An allegation apparently taken seriously enough to warrant a church investigation into the house. The glass, thereafter known as the Lasser glass, is sold in public auction in 1758. The next known owner is an American railroad tycoon named Robert Clancy, 1864. Clancy apparently weighed over 300 pounds. In fact, while attending university in Connecticut, he was known as the South Wyndham Whale. He hung the glass in his ballroom in Atlanta. Later that year, Robert Clancy is photographed by a local newspaper and, well, he's dropped a few pounds. His obit was printed a few weeks later. Doesn't list a cause of death. Unfortunately, he and his estate and the glass are presumably destroyed in Sherman's march to the ocean in 1865, and after that, the glass is lost. Until it resurfaces in turn-of-the-century New England. The next case of note is Mary O'Connor, 1904. She hung the mirror in her private bathroom. 2 weeks later, her niece Beatrice finds Mary dead in the bathtub. Now, the official coroner's report lists the cause of death as, get this, dehydration. The woman died of thirst while soaking in a full tub for 3 days. The next case of note is Alice Carton in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, 1943. Neighbors reported hearing screams and loud bangs from the house. The police found the children drowned in a locked cistern. Alice herself was in the nursery, and both of her legs are completely shattered. Her left arm is broken in 4 places, and 6 of her ribs are crushed. In her right hand is a large hammer she's been using to break her own bones. They find her just as she's going to work on her skull. Her right arm, though, is completely unharmed. Because she needed it to wield the hammer. Alice later says she believed she was tucking the children into their beds as she sealed them into the cistern. She never recovers from her injuries. And, oh, the family kept several dogs at the farm, including an Australian Shepherd for the children.
An Australian Shepherd for the children. Let's eat.
Who exactly are you talking to on those tapes? All the people who stared pointed. The kids at school who always found out. I guess I'm talking to everyone who ever called Dad a murderer, called you a murderer. Look Kaylie, we were just kids, we made up a scary story so we wouldn't have to accept the fact that our father was a murderer. He was a sick man who tortured and killed our...
Sick man who tortured and killed our...
You can call me crazy all you like, but you're not allowed to talk about him that way. Let's talk about why we're really here. Let's. 2002, the laser glass adorns the home office of Alan Russell, software designer, husband to Marie, father to Timothy and Kaylie. Within 2 weeks of its arrival, Marie suffers an intense psychological breakdown and is tortured and murdered in the family home. By whom? By her husband. So say the police reports. And her husband was shot to death by her own son, right in front of her daughter. I intend to prove that none of the people I've just described were responsible for their actions. Alan Russell was not a murderer. He was a victim. One of many, as it turns out, victims of the supernatural force that resides in that mirror. So why don't we just end it right now and smash the goddamn thing?
You really don't remember.
Remember what?
Please, smash it, by all means. Okay. You know, I've learned a lot about what happens to people when they can't process something horrible. The mind creates all kinds of protections to help them cope. And once that belief's taken root, the mind takes random information and forces it to support that narrative. How many thousands of records did you have to pour through to find 12 or 13 that support your case?
Why did you put the stool down?
Because I'm trying to have a conversation with you. Aha. Only one person I know of was ever documented trying to break the mirror. Oliver Jeffries. 1971, a teacher at Manhattan's Daim Academy, where the mirror hung in the central lecture hall. One morning he reportedly ran at the mirror with a fireplace poker, shouting about how it needed to be destroyed, but he never struck a blow. According to the students, he stood there quietly for almost a minute before walking out of the hall and into traffic. It's clearly capable of defending itself, and I think it just disarmed you. You know why I didn't smash the mirror, Kaylie? Besides you getting fired or charged with destruction of property, it isn't mine to break. No one can break your delusion for you. You have to do it yourself. Which leads me to my final precaution. You're looking at a 20-pound Danforth anchor. Another 20 pounds added with barbells, attached to a modified ballast rail and a spring pin lock connected to a mechanical kitchen timer. No electricity, which is important, and we're about 10 seconds away. If the timer is not manually reset every 30 minutes, that is, if no one is here to stop it. The mirror goes right there. And the only thing to prevent that from happening again is our continued survival. You know why we don't have to wait for it to come out and play? Because we've got a loaded gun to its head. And I expect it'll be eager to defend itself. Over time back in 2002, the parents become psychotic, Alan isolates himself in his office, and Marie becomes withdrawn and paranoid. All of the plants in the house die, and their family dog Mason disappears after being shut in the office with the mirror. After Kaylie sees Alan with Marisol, she tells her mother, and the parents fight.
Lost in my own...
One night, Marie goes insane and attempts to kill her children, but Alan locks her away. When the family runs out of food, the children realize that their father is under the influence of the mirror, so Kaylie goes to seek help from their mother, and finds her chained to the wall, acting like an animal. Kaylie and Tim try going to their neighbors for help, but the neighbors disbelieve their stories. When Kaylie attempts to use the phone, she discovers that all of her phone calls are answered by the same man. One night, Alan unchains Marie, and both parents attack the children. Marie briefly comes to her senses, only to be shot dead by Alan. The children try to destroy the mirror, but it tricks them, making them believe they are hitting the mirror when they are actually hitting the wall. Alan also experiences a moment of lucidity and kills himself by forcing Tim to pull the trigger of the gun and shoot him, causing a small crack in the corner of the mirror in the process. Before dying, he begs the children to run, but Marisol and other victims of the mirror appear as horrific ghosts. The police arrive and take Tim into custody. Before the siblings are separated, they promise to reunite as adults and destroy the mirror. As Tim is taken away and put behind bars, he sees the ghosts of his parents watching him from the house. Tim attempts to convince Kaylie that she's wrong and the siblings argue. When they notice the houseplants begin to wilt, they review the camera footage and see themselves performing actions they have no memory of. Tim finally accepts the mirror's supernatural power and attempts to escape the house with Kaylie, only for the pair to be drawn back by the mirror's influence. Seeing a hallucination of her mother, Kaylie stabs it in the neck, only to realize that she has stabbed Michael Dumont, her fiancé who has come to check on her. They try to call the police, but are only able to reach the same voice who spoke to them on the phone as children. At this point, they see their doppelgangers inside the house standing in front of the mirror. Realizing that the 911 call is not going through, they go back inside the house. Kaylie and Tim begin hallucinating by seeing younger versions of each other. They get separated, and each of them relives the nightmare from their youth. Tim awakens alone in the room with the mirror, while simultaneously a younger Kaylie hallucinates her mother beckoning her from the mirror. Tim activates the kill switch, realizing too late and unable to see that Kaylie stood in its path, and he has killed her. The police arrive and arrest Tim, who is hysterical, just as they did when he was younger. As both a boy and an adult, Tim claims the mirror is responsible. As he is taken away and put behind bars, Tim's adult incarnation sees Kaylie's ghost standing in the house with his parents.